Well, a great interaction there. The General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedun Ketia, and that interaction with Mamavi, after you've watched it, definitely will be uploaded onto our relevant social media platforms. You can get all those updates on Facebook, Joy News on TV, through our Twitter handle at Joy News on TV, and then all those uploads also will be on Joy News TV, our official YouTube channel, and of course, myjoyonline.com. Now let's talk about something that also has been occupying the public space in the last couple of hours. We're talking about the concerns being raised by education authorities at the tertiary level, especially at the university level, about the Public Universities Bill. Basically, close to a year has been raising concerns among the managers of public universities, the unions, the teachers themselves, and this is where we want to really dissect the subject, because currently we do know that UTAG, they have petitioned in a very lengthy statement, the Education Committee of Parliament, to amend the current contents of the bill by way of the structure as it is. And we have the University Teachers Association of Ghana National President on stream. Professor Charles Mafo is live this morning. Good morning to you, Professor Mafo.
Good morning.
Great. Great to see you there. And I also have a long acquaintance, good friend, Professor Kwejo Apieje Ituahene. He is the UTAG University of Ghana chapter president. Good morning to you, Professor Ituahene.
Good morning. Can I please quickly make a correction? The name is Apieje Etua. Okay. The Hene is not attached yet. Okay. One day I'll be. All right, also, so I'm just representing UTAG Eugene. I was opted to on UTAG National to help in working on the memo to Parliament.
Okay, so Professor Apieje Etua, it's more appropriate, isn't it? Right, and then we also have somebody who has always associated himself with the vandals of the University of Ghana, has indeed taught at the University of Ghana. We've been long acquaintances as well, currently Member of Parliament for Busa South, but also a deputy ranking on the Education Committee of Parliament. Dr. Clement Apak is also on stream. Good morning to you for the second day running, getting all the topics and contributing. Dr. Clement Apak, good morning.
Good morning to you, and good morning to my fellow panelists.
And good morning. Good morning.
Great. Right. Okay. So my first question, and I'm taking this from the memorandum explaining what the bill is and the intent, etc. And it says, the purpose of the Public Universities Bill is to provide the procedure of the establishment of public universities, principles of management of public universities, the legal status of public universities, the procedure for financing public universities, and the administration and the supervision of public universities and related matters. And I have first then pose a question to you, UTAG President Professor Mafo. And I've seen the statement that you've issued, very lengthy, and if you take a look at some of the concerns, the summary will be what? Just for our audience also to be well acquainted.
The summary will be that we would have wished there is no such a bill at all. That is basically it, because we don't really see the significance of it. We just said what they intend to do with public administration and whatever, but we believe the acts of the individual universities as they are now are doing those jobs. And if anything at all, and they want to make it better, we could fine-tune it. And so we are just saying, and just the fact that we have so much concern on most of the clauses tacitly suggests that we would have wished that this bill does not proceed into Parliament and for that matter to get passed. But we are just saying that if it has to be, if it is the policy of government and they insist on doing it, there's a better way of doing it. And that is why we had to sit down and do such an exhaustive job and give it to them. So yeah, the memo contains issues we have and our recommendations, if they so well to pass the bill. Yeah.
Now, Professor Apieje, if you take a look at what the recommendations are in that statement by UTAG, and you have been a mainstay of the faculty where you teach at the University of Ghana. Ultimately means that you and your membership, you find the way the university will be administered, if this is passed into a law, to be problematic. And specifically, which of those sections of administration and oversight?
Thank you for the question. Our argument is premised on the fact that this law attacks academic freedom, and academic freedom is the premise on which the university is able to function in terms of how we conduct research, how classroom and through the communities to promote the development of the society. And one of the pillars of academic freedom is institutional autonomy. And we think that the bill as it is currently structured will severely compromise the university's independence space, which is needed to achieve the targets which I just mentioned. So we are looking at, for example, we can look at the three official persons of the university. This is the chancellor, the chairperson of the university council, the vice chancellor. These are positions which are supposed to be selected by and through the university system and administration. And so for example, with the chancellor position, the constitution is clear, and as Article 68(2), that the president cannot be a chancellor, and for that matter, he cannot be involved in the appointment of the chancellor. Then the position of the chair of the council is also, according to Article 95(1)(3), is supposed to be appointed by the university. Again, that power is being appropriated by the government through this proposed bill. And then we're also looking at the composition of the council. The council is the heartbeat of the university. The governance structure rests on the council. And if you have a situation where the majority are going to come from the government side, then certainly the government is going to intrude more severely into the running of the university, and therefore convert of corporate body with a corporate structure that will determine the day-to-day running of the university. So these are some of our concerns we have with respect to institutional autonomy of the university.
And Dr. Apag, before UTAG brought this concern to you in that full statement, I've noticed it's a 25-page document. Were there inherent concerns that you members of the Education Committee also had with the bill when it was first brought to you?
Well, Roland, let me say that I am in sync with the commentary made by my two colleagues on this matter. You know, I am in a rather peculiar situation. Before I got involved in mainstream politics, of course, I was a lecturer at the University of Ghana. I had the chance to participate actively in various facets of campus life. And so being on the Committee on Education, naturally, it is only by instinct that I am always eager to find out what is coming up in as far as education is concerned. And in this case, higher education. So I got wind of the proposed bill even before it was laid formally. As you are aware, sometime last year, when it became public knowledge that government was pondering the idea of introducing what we now know to be the Public Universities Bill, it generated a lot of reaction in, stakeholder circles. And so at that time, I made my position very clear, having seen what was supposed to be the draft bill even before it came to Parliament. And indeed, all the issues that have been raised are some of the reasons why I feel personally, and in this case, the minority, we believe that this bill doesn't have what it takes to resolve the challenges that we all know we face in the area of, public education at the higher level with regards to our universities. Because, I mean, all the issues that the memorandum accompanying the bill has stated that it seeks to fix, these are not issues that are beyond the ability and capacity of the current management system, the separate and individual, unique and historical university statutes to deal with. So our argument has always been that the challenges that government claims it seeks to fix by introducing this bill can be solved without the introduction of the bill. But if you take a critical look at the bill, clearly, if this bill, the way it has been presented, is passed into law, then what we value most as academics, as academic freedom, is lost forever. But when you have the president appointing 6 out of 9 council members who have the final say in almost every facet of endeavor, be it academic or otherwise, on a university campus, where you are limiting student representation, you are limiting representation by, unions on campus. And at the same time, you are now inviting the minister to give approval for universities to enter into partnerships or agreements in furtherance of their objects or their mandate in consultation with the NTCE. And then the universities, by and large, now become, part of the executive arm of government. And that is why, all stakeholders, and I say so with all certainty, have challenged the purpose, the usefulness, and even whether this bill is needed. It is only government, as far as I know, that seems to think that this bill is necessary. All the stakeholders that I know of, whether it is students, former vice chancellors, current vice chancellors, university councils, UTAG, TEU, UTAG, I don't know of any major stakeholder in the public university space that in agreement with government, what government is trying to do.
Right. But Professor Mafo, the point is that if you look at the structure of public universities across board, and even for those that are private, but are even part of the top-notch ones, it's by trusteeship. And the funding of public universities always comes from the state and government. And so if you have government taking the role of appointment and seats to have their representatives on how the universities are managed, well, I'm thinking in my lay non-academic mind, it makes a lot of sense.
Roland, thank you. I mean, that is just what you said in your lay mind as a non-academic. I mean, the university has been there since what? The beginning of Ghana, let me say that. And so one would ask, since that period, hasn't the government had, or the government been in existence? Why have they not taken any step to venture into university activities and to control us? You see, I've always been saying that there's a clear distinction between regulations and control. Government has always found ways of regulating the universities. And that is why in a society like Ghana, we have laws in place. And so if you think, let's say a vice chancellor or somebody in some managerial position in the university has done something wrong, you pursue the person by prosecuting him through the law or using the laws of the state. That is the use of regulation. But here, as Dr. Park rightly pointed out, I mean, if we have structures that we believe actually solidify our sense of independence, and all of a sudden somebody want to come in with new rules, new regulations, and then the person goes ahead to tell you that there is nothing to fear. Those steps can only be ominous, right? That is to suggest to you that maybe there is some attempt to do something untoward. And that is what we want to prevent. And so we are just saying, and then as Professor Tuan also rightly pointed, through constitutional instruments, as academics, we should not really just sit there and watch when the constitution of the nation is being trampled on, even an aspect of it. And so that is all that we are saying. In fact, we have gone even further. UTAG has gone even further, because one would have thought that we could have even called for total rejection, as some of our members have started even doing. I've seen hashtag reject public PUB now. But we thought, I mean, we live in a jurisdiction where if you don't take care, you say you just don't want it, and then it gets to parliament. And as we normally say, minority will have its say, and government or majority will have its way. We don't want that situation. And that is why we thought we should suggest, bring forth, recommend, and say that, look, as I said earlier, tacitly, maybe we are better off if this law does not proceed, if this law is just curtailed at some point. But you really want to proceed, do it in such a way that the fundamental, I would say that it is the stool of the university, is the academic freedom, the cardinal principle that actually makes us academics, right? And so we are saying that, yes, we have made all these recommendations, a number of them, and as somebody said, I've read some articles here and there, the fact that we have been able to even punch holes in so many of them really suggests that, really would have suggested a withdrawal of it, and perhaps a better consideration before it is properly presented again, as they've been doing with the electoral commissions here and the rest. So, yes, Roland, for us, the agenda is simple: protect academic freedom. And that is exactly what we are doing.
Now, Dr. Park, if you look at in evolution, you look at how universities and academia has operated, they've always been the center for innovation, giving the mouthpiece to people who have been the conveyor belt to revolutionize new ideas and influence society. So the intent of these propositions of opposition is just to create that environment where the academicians are on the campuses, and within the structure they operate within their own remit.
Well, Roland, I think that the argument in opposition to this bill is very simple and straightforward. It is summarized within the context of what Professor Mafo just indicated. It is all about academic freedom. And that is how universities have always thrived. In your preamble, you talked about the role of universities. That is exactly what they are supposed to do, to be, institutions where ideas, knowledge, information, creativity can blossom as part of the effort to improve the conditions of society. And competition, individuality, uniqueness is part of those ingredients that make universities what they are. And in fact, I don't know in any part of the world, and I have lived and taught in some other parts of the world, the current trend is actually in opposition to what our government is proposing. And this is why, if you read the position paper by the Academy of Arts and Sciences, they very clearly that what the bill is seeking to do is retrogressive, and that was going to push the academic institutions decades backwards. So when you look at what government is trying to do, and you factor in the issues that government claims it wants to resolve by the introduction of this bill, vis-a-vis the sacrifice of academic freedom, the potential victimization of academics whose conduct, writings, presentations, articles, a government of a day may not find palatable, by virtue of having a majority on the council, victimizing such lecturers, be it in their application for grants, application for promotions, and the mere fact that the universities would now be required to actually seek the approval of a minister, a political appointee, in order to enter into agreements within or within the country or outside of the country. This clearly cannot be progressive. And that's why I have said that if I were government, this bill needs to be abandoned. It needs to be withdrawn because it is not going to resolve any known challenge that we know we face in our public university sector. It is only going to exacerbate the current situation, perhaps even make academics timid. A lot of them will feel victimized, and that in itself is going to be detrimental for our foreign. So for me, if you have my honest opinion, I think that the bill should be withdrawn. And if government is still insistent that it wants to do something about the governance structure of our public universities, they can start all over by first engaging the key stakeholders for them to be the movers of identifying what the issues are, and then profiling how best they can be resolved, on the basis of which government can then put together a bill that would not seek to destroy what has been built over several decades.
Now, Professor Appiah-Gyechia, if you take a look at clause 5 to 12, and comprehensively you look at how it resonates with the appointment and what government or a government would intend to do by having its representative on the council, is it not just to be able to create the sink for public tertiary education management and link it to policy, so that then there's a certain connectivity of tracking what really is being done based on funding that is coming from state coffers into public universities? So they want to have their representatives there.
Certainly, according to the structure that has been there since ages, government representation has always been there. But here we have a model that is going to severely hamper what we call self-governance at the university level. Why the majority of the space should be given to the university to be able to regulate affairs on the campuses, to deal with what should be taught and what not should be taught, who should be admitted and who should not be admitted, students' issues on the campuses, and even the financial matters of the campuses. So we are talking about autonomy for the university. Bill says the university is a semi-autonomous body. It is not. It is an autonomous body. But any autonomous body has some limitations incorporated into how that institution is run. And that is what should be recognized by the government. As it stands now, we are moving into a managerialist form of governance at the university, or a corporatist form of governance. And that takes away that collegiality that the current system is supposed to ensure and to promote. And so it is quite ironic that for the first time in our constitutional history, the Constitution recognizes academic freedom, which you only find among 14 other countries in Africa. And yet the government is going back to the level which we had during the 60s, when Nkrumah decided to clamp down on academic freedom at the universities. So the structure as it is now, there's no problem with it. If you are talking about bringing in means to control the financial affairs of the university, the fact that the university is paying so much into, the government is paying too much into the running of the university, doesn't give it the power to control the university. It's about regulating what is happening there. And the laws are there. You have the Financial Management Act, for example, which is there, which can be used. And if you look at the structure of the university, it's one of the most organized and most stable among the various institutions that we have in the country. and it has worked well for the universities over a long period of time. So we are saying that it is unnecessary to introduce a new structure which will fundamentally turn things upside down, and therefore it will end up creating more problems than it is likely to resolve. Because if you leave the management of the university and allow, for example, the Minister of Education to make directives for the university, we have problems with how politicians have managed different aspects or different sectors of the country. And therefore, if you want to introduce that into the university space as well, it is going to create problems for the university. The university is not asking for a leeway to do its own thing. That's why I'm saying that the autonomy, every right has some limitations. And that is clearly spelled out in the Constitution. Right. But we need some level of autonomy to be able to have that space for creativity, for dissemination of knowledge, even produce that knowledge so that it would help the country to grow. And that is what we are asking for.
Professor Mafo, how far are you willing to go with this? Yeah, you want to hit the streets?
Oh, Roland.
Oh, you're too gentle for that.
I mean, if at some point it has to take that for government to get our point, I think we will have to. I mean, for us, we cherish academic freedom. And as I said earlier, and my colleague totally agrees with me, we go to every extent to protect it, right? But we hope it does not get there. I must confess that since the last time we met the president, we had an invitation to meet the president of the land. And then I forcefully made this point to him that the bill as it stands now does not sit well with the membership of UTAG. And in fact, no one should allow it to pass if you really want to appreciate initiative, progression, and as somebody said, dissemination of great knowledge, And so the president, I could say, was actually in sync with us. And so since then, we have met the Honorable Minister of Education on a number of occasions. And I must confess, he's been very accommodating and respecting the views of UTAG. And I guess that is why we had to put in so much into this memorandum and give them an extensive recommendation that as I keep saying, one would have thought that, look, as Dr. Park said, let's forget about it. But if you really want to insist, as Professor Park says, maybe they should have come down to us earlier and sat down with us, identify where they think there are weaknesses, and so that from us, we evolve solutions. That did not happen. In a midway, we have come in with a memorandum. Well, it's perhaps better late than never. So they could resort to that memorandum, look at our recommendation, and pursue on that path.
Right.
If they really wish to do it. But as you suggested to me, if push becomes shove, of course, expect UTAG to react.
Right. Professor Ejetua, and then this, I hope that you can answer this in a minute. The president, 10 months ago, at the 11th Congregation of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, did describe all this resistance as very flimsy and saying that there are good reasons behind the bill. What will be your reaction to that?
I'm sorry to disagree respectfully from the stance of the president. The reasons you have put forward are not flimsy. In fact, if you go back into history, his father himself played an active role in promoting academic freedom when he was in the position of prime minister during his time. So, and he, as a recognized lawyer who knows the law, we think that he knows that that position is not supported by the facts, and also, most importantly, by the law, because all our position is and what we have been canvassing is based on the law, as well as on tradition, as well as on best practices which have evolved at the universities over the period, but fundamentally on the law. We are relying on Article 21 2B, which talks about recognition of academic freedom. We are talking about the fact that the law is relying on Article 70 of the Constitution, which talks about a National Commission of Higher Education, which used to be a body which is now in the name of National Commission of Tertiary Education. And that cannot be equated to a Governing Council of a university. And so based on law, based on the Constitution, our position is clear. And we are not saying that we just want to have our way. We are basing our argument on the law, on the Constitution, which is a fundamental law of the land.
Okay.
So going into other areas, we cannot go back to a position where we will condone illegality.
All right, thank you. Unfortunately, Dr. Pa, I can't give you the last word, but thank you for joining me, all three of you. Professor Mafo is the president, University Teachers Association of Ghana, and then also speaking for the University of Ghana chapter of UTAG, Professor Apiejetua teaches a lot of law. I've known him over the years. And then also somebody who has taught at universities abroad, locally also, University of Ghana, is now a member of Parliament and Deputy Ranking for Parliament Education Committee. Dr. Clement Apak also joining me. Well, we hope that this will be food for thought. We'll continue with this conversation. But right now, that'll be it for now. We have to take a break. When we come back, we do have some highlights of entertainment. Remember, we also do have press conference going to be taking place. The latest updates, we have the second in a week at the Ministry of Information right here on coronavirus.